Doctors, how do you win the World Series? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by Cats Consultants and Chiro Health USA. We are your hosts for today's show, as we are most weeks. So welcome back, Troy. This is Dr. Troy Fox. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. Troy, how are you?
I am fantastic.
Awesome. I am too. It's a good day. So I opened with a question: how do you win the World Series? And I'm going to give you the $1 million answer because you already know where I'm going. You have to have a great coach. You have to have a World Series level coach. And you know what? The same holds true in business. How do you win in business? You got to have a winning business coach. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right. And what we see in many situations is people that struggle to understand why they're not as effective with their patients as they want to be. And come to find out, they're like an MLB player getting ready to go to the World Series that has been self-taught their whole life.
Yeah.
And have never reviewed what they don't understand, why they do what they do, but yet it's worked up to a certain level. Most of you could say probably up to a certain level in my practice, what I did worked, but then I got stuck.
And I'm going to pick apart worked. What does that mean? We hear that all the time. Well, what I'm doing works. What are you basing that on? How are you measuring that? Is it something you've been doing for the last 15 or 20 years? If it is, I'm going to guarantee if you haven't made any changes, it doesn't work. It doesn't work as good as it could.
Works and works well are two different things.
Yeah. And, you know, I always look at life and anything you do in life as you should be trying to master it. It's not about being perfect. It's about constantly growing, constantly innovating, constantly changing with the times. There's little subtle things that change just in the general business world, like consumer buying habits, for example. Have they changed since the pandemic? Yeah. In fact, right now they're kind of changing again. And if you're not going with the flow of that, and I'll tell you one thing you're doing out there, doctors, if you're still delivering a 30-minute presentation for your report of findings that tells all the ins and outs and compacts your 4-year chiropractic education into 30 minutes for the patient, you're missing out. You're missing how to connect with today's consumer patients. And so this is where good coaching comes into play. It helps you constantly get better at the game without having to take the time and the resources to analyze yourself. And we can't analyze ourselves. You and I are coaches here at Cats, but we also have coaches. And that's the only way you get better.
Well, I think your lack of analysis from a standpoint of what's going on in chiropractic and in the retail and business world itself also plays into, in a lot of cases, what we hear from potential clients at times is, well, this is what coaching looked like, or advisement or consulting or whatever terminology you want to use. Right. This is what they did 20 years ago. I'm afraid that's what you're going to do to me. In other words, 20 years ago, a lot of the discussion was new patients and PVA all the time. And so people are like, that's what you're going to tell me. Well, I already understand that. I just need to, and unfortunately, what we've seen in a lot of cases is a race to the bottom with pricing because we're trying to get new patients in the door. And the problem is that's really not consumer sentiment at this point. And it's really not what consulting is all about. Can you think of the last time that you said you need to go out and get 50 new patients this month?
No.
I've never said that. I've never said it once. And we're more worried about here's what we're worried about. What we're worried about is stability in your practice. Number one. Number two, we're worried about margin. It's about margin. It's not about volume.
Which is AKA profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we need to take a quick break. I'm over here laughing because you mentioned one of my favorite comedic things in our profession, and that's PVA.
Yeah.
We can spend a whole half hour on just tearing that one apart. Okay. Anyway, I digress. We're going to take a quick break. Word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Affordable care shouldn't mean undervaluing yourself, but most chiropractors are still undercharging, especially when it comes to insurance allowances and cash patients with limited coverage. Chiro Health USA helps chiropractors charge appropriately, get paid well when insurance is available, and still serve patients with no or limited benefits, all through a compliant discount medical plan. The result? Doctors stop undercharging, raise fees, and increase income by about 20% without sacrificing care. That's not a discount strategy, it's a business strategy. Learn more at chirohealthusa.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. We're talking about how to win in the chiropractic business world, because that's what we're all trying to do, is be a for-profit clinic and not a nonprofit. And some of you out there are nonprofit and may not even realize it. But Troy, you brought up a good point. I think a lot of people get this impression that chiropractic business coaching has never changed.
Mhm.
And we get that sometimes because our cat's name has been around for so long. It's,
Right.
kind of been the gold standard in coaching. But a lot of people think, oh, I went to a cat seminar back in the 80s. It's got to be the same. No, we are incredibly innovative. And that's what a good coach does, is behind the scenes on your behalf, they're innovating. They're learning the business deeper. They're studying consumer habits, and they're studying economics and all those kind of things that really help you drive your practice so you don't think about that. A good coach keeps up on all the compliance rules and things. And there are some hidden treasures in our profession right now that can really help propel a practice's profit without what you were talking about, Troy, earlier, without having to drive more new patients and to drive more patient visits. And we talk to doctors all the time who call us up and want to find out a little bit more about our coaching process. And I think a lot of them are kind of floored when we don't say, well, you just need to increase your new patients and your patient visits. No,
Mhm.
I don't care what your new patients and your patient visits are. In today's world, that's not how you run a practice.
No, and even I experienced that back in the day. And
Yeah.
I won't talk about the group that I went to, but I went to a group and I paid a boatload of money to
Mhm.
have them tell me what I needed to do. And quite frankly, when I entered this group, I was already in let's call it their platinum group, whatever it was, the top group of docs. When I came through the door, my numbers already equated to that. And here's the first thing that was said. First thing that was said is, well, for an additional $5,000, we'd like you to be part of our platinum group. What? That was number one. So that was a little weird. But number two, I was dumb enough to actually pay the money. And I paid the extra money to be in the platinum group. I thought, well, I'm going to rub elbows with other doctors that are seeing larger numbers of patients, which require a different methodology, right? So I was hoping to learn methodology, not how did they do it.
Right.
It's just, okay, what methodology you guys use and how is patient flow in the office working to where I can be more efficient? Number one,
Mhm.
I can provide great patient service. And at the end of the day, everybody's happy. And so
Right.
that's why I joined the group. Guess what I got told? You need more new patients and you need your PBA to be up over like 50 or something like that. And I was like, whoa, 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 hold on a minute. So, and we won't get into the deep in the weeds on PVA, but PVA is the dumbest statistic ever because it can be so easily manipulated. What I really have to do is drop my new patients to get my PVA higher, by the way.
Right. I mean, that never made any sense. I realize there's some industry standards to it because that number's been around a long time. But yeah, that's just not where you see the success in your practice.
And that was what we saw in the 80s and 90s a lot.
Mhm.
And you and I've talked an awful lot over the years about where chiropractic is going, the model that we're looking at, what is going to be not only successful for your practice, successful for you as an individual. So
Right.
when we look at you, we want to know what your goals are. It's no different than when a patient comes through the door and they sit down in front of you. What's going on with your practice? In other words,
Mhm.
what's going on with you? What are your goals for care? What are your goals for coaching? We handle it much in the same way that we custom build a program around that. It's not cookie cutter.
It's not.
Here's the access to the library. Now, we do have folks that only want to check out the library, and we've offered access at points. But we've always thought and talked behind the scenes, if we only offer access to the library, are they really getting the greatest service that we offer? Are they really getting the understanding of what needs to happen in their practice? And I think the answer is no. I think you have to know a person's practice to be able to help coach or advise that practice.
100%. Because it's not cookie cutter. And you and I both in the past, long past, have been involved in cookie cutter coaching.
Mhm.
And it can be fine for a while, but at some point you run out of the ability to bake it more cookies. You run out of steam with it. You outgrow it, basically.
Yes.
And this is where you need innovative one-on-one customized coaching. And this is the point where we're not all the same. It's not all about increasing patient volume. It's about taking your goals and letting us be your board of directors and guiding you with the processes and procedures that not only fit your clinic today, but we help modify them through innovation as you grow so it continues to fit you.
And did you ever think that a consultant or a coach would ever tell you no? Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
You come in, your practice is skating the treetops. You're like, man, I need some help. Okay. So you decide to come on board with us and we're going to help you. And rather than you actually listening to what we're saying, because that's part of you got to walk the walk, right? If you're
Yeah.
going to come in and you're going to listen, you're going to take that advice. It's like if I'm an MLB player and I've got a batting coach that's working with me, I'm not going to just ignore what my batting coach says. I'm going to try to get better. I do the same thing in golf. When I go get a lesson, I really try to soak up what that teacher is telling me because they can see me from the 30,000-foot view. They know
Right,
what's
you
going
can't
on
see.
with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't see it.
You
So
can't see it.
here's a great example. Somebody comes in, they're skating the treetops. They're trying to figure out a way to make the practice bigger, better, more efficient, more appealing to their clients. And they decide that $100,000 piece of equipment is going to do that. No, they don't have the money for it, but you're talking to some company that's telling you, hey, we can just do a lease program with you. It's only going to be X number of dollars a month. This will be great. It's going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Yep.
You bring that back to us. Part of our job is to evaluate what you brought to us and then match it up to your practice and say, is this a good decision, a bad decision? Is this a decision that we do 6 months from now, a year from now? What goals do we need to reach before we do this? Or are you ready right now? And we help you with those kind of things. So
Sure.
sometimes we say, absolutely not. I said that on a phone call just last week. The
Mhm.
answer when they told me, blah, 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 I'm going to do this. I think I should do this. Absolutely not.
I talked to a doctor this morning that has this big idea, and it's not a bad idea, but has this big idea of wanting to bring in an associate.
Mhm.
So I asked a couple of questions, and we looked at some stats, and the doc's not ready. The
You're not
clinic
ready.
is just not ready. It would absolutely drown this clinic if he brought in an associate right now. So no, you can't do it. And these are just a few of the things that we help doctors with is to make good financial decisions, good decisions on when to hire staff, when to fire staff, and how to create treatment plans that not only work for patients, but keep patients engaged so you have good retention and lifetime value in those patients. And we're all about helping you work smarter, not harder. And the I'm going to call it the old model of chiropractic business. More patient visits, more new patients does nothing but lead you to burnout because you're just working harder and harder and harder. And what a lot of people don't realize is there's a peak to our capacity. And when we hit that peak for very long, we start losing the number of services we can functionally do and collect on. And the our profit actually begins to go down. So now
Mhm.
we're seeing more patient visits, but our profit's going the other direction. And there's a balance in there that you have to hit. It's a pendulum. And we have to make sure that that pendulum stays balanced, but also grows over time. And when I say grows, it doesn't mean it's more patient volume. We use basic economics. We brought economics back to the chiropractic business world. We use basic economics to help your practice grow on the profit side, not the
Well,
patient visit side.
and you said the key word right there, business. I'm not going to tell you whether you should do a Gonstead or a diversified adjustment with a patient.
No,
That's your area
that's
of
your choice.
expertise.
Yeah.
That's your area of expertise. But our job is to make sure that you're making sound business decisions. And that's what that's what we excel at. We're good at the business side of chiropractic. And some of you, unfortunately, don't want to admit that you're running a business.
Right.
And so you kind of put your head in the sand and say, oh, the business will take care of itself as long as I provide great patient care. We've seen too many times where really great chiropractors are struggling from a business standpoint because they're not understanding the market trends. They're not understanding how the business actually operates. And quite
Really?
frankly, many of you gauge whether your practice is doing well or not by how much money's in your checking account.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a recipe for pretty quick disaster. I mean, we've seen practices nearly go under by thinking 1 month they've got a whole bunch of money in the checking account, and 2 or 3 months later it's gone.
Yeah.
Because they're not looking forward. Our profession has a tendency to look at 1 day, 1 week, maybe 1 month at a time. And you can't forecast a business's profitability, cash flow needs, those kind of things by looking at those shorter intervals too hard.
Now,
You gotta be able to forecast.
when you're falling off a cliff with a bag of money, and that's really where you're at. If you have high, oh my checking account's way up this month. If you fall off a cliff with a bag of money, the stats will tell you that you're falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
The money won't. The money goes with you. And then basically you're going to spend it down very quickly. Now you're trying to play catch up, and now you do what we call reactive marketing. So let me tell you this, you're no different if you're not running your business as a business than an addict.
Yeah.
I want to explain that.
No, it's true.
So an addict thinks they're completely different than everybody else. Oh, I don't need rehab. I don't need this. I don't need that. I'm going to be able to do this on my own. When you talk to somebody that's a rehab counselor or an addiction specialist, you know what they're going to do? They're going to look at you, and the first thing that they're going to see, you're just like every other addict. So here's what I see when I see your business. I see that we have a lot of different business models and a lot of unique chiropractic practices out there, but they're all chiropractic businesses.
Yep.
So if that makes sense to you, we see a lot of the same mistakes being made that we can help you avoid from a 30,000 foot overview when you tell us what's going on, what are you trying to achieve, and we can get to work and start looking at numbers.
Absolutely. Hands down. We need to take another break, but when we come back, I want to talk about one of the things that I think it's not a myth, but I think it's a bad thought process in our profession that is holding doctors back from really seeing great profits in their practice and keeping too many of us flat on the profit side. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Patient numbers dipping, staff overwhelmed, and another marketing idea promising the world but delivering nothing. These pressures feel familiar to nearly every chiropractic clinic today. Across the country, chiropractors work hard, yet many find themselves stuck, balancing patient care with the nonstop demands of running a business. That's where the real strain begins. Most clinics face the same set of hurdles: inconsistent new patient flow, operational bottlenecks, and the constant challenge of staying visible in an overcrowded digital space. National reports show that over 60% of clinics struggle with scheduling efficiency alone, and even more lack a clear marketing strategy that reliably converts. But the good news? These challenges aren't roadblocks, they're signals. With the right procedures, smarter outreach, and guidance built specifically for chiropractic practices, clinics can turn daily stress into sustainable growth. Stronger clinics start with smarter strategies. Grow your practice with confidence. Book your strategy session with CATS Consultants.
Okay, we are back. We are talking about really diving into your practice and it- finding a coach, a good coach who can really help you see the 30,000 foot view of your practice, like you said, Troy. And I mentioned before this last break that there's a notion, I couldn't think of the word before, there's a notion in the profession that I've tried coaching or I've heard of people trying coaching and it didn't work. And I think that's an unfortunate thought process. Number one, probably you didn't have the right coach. Number two, you probably looked at the coaching expense as an expense and not an investment. And that shifts your thinking into constantly thinking about, how do I get rid of that expense? How do I get rid of that expense? And instead of taking advantage of it being an investment and let it helping grow your practice. And here's the other unfortunate thing I see. When I talk to doctors who said coaching didn't work, the common theme is, well, they gave me a bunch of information, but I never applied it. A good coach, let's go back to your batting coach analogy, Troy.
Or an addict, either one.
Yeah,
Both work.
either one. But I can be your batting coach and I can give you all these techniques and hand shifts and use a different way to bat and whatever. But if you don't do any of it, what are the results going to be that you get? You're going to get the same results you've been getting. And that's where you've got to get with somebody. It's just like your patients. Why do your patients keep coming to you? Because they trust you. You got to find a trusted advisor.
You can't coach through osmosis.
You can't. And you can't get coached from somebody who's not been in your shoes. We've not only been in your shoes, we're still in your shoes.
Yeah.
We have practices. We understand from the ground exactly what you're going through. We know what the mistakes are and how to avoid them.
I've made every one of them. That's the thing, is that, as I've gone along. Now, have I avoided some mistakes with coaching? Absolutely, I
Sure.
have.
Sure.
But I'm still going to make mistakes. And you know what? I take note of those. I write them down in my journal and I think, how can I help someone else not to make that mistake?
Exactly.
That's why being in practice, I got the scrubs on right now because I was with patients this morning and I will be again here in about 45 minutes this afternoon. But when I make a mistake, the first thing that I do is usually call you and I go, well, check out what happened this morning. And I will hash it out. And here's the thing. I'm not afraid when Dr. Perusich says to me, I think you could have handled it this way. I never take that in a bad way. I am so self-monitoring and self-critical sometimes to a fault almost at times. I'm so self-critical because I want my practice to be the best. And so I will call Dr. Perusich up and say, hey, check out what happened this morning. He and I will hash it back and forth and we'll come up with a plan and go, you know what? I think this is a good answer. Or there are times when I've had occasion to have an experience that Dr. Perusich has never had, or I've had an experience that he's had and I haven't had before, and I didn't know how to handle it. It happens now and then, not very often anymore after 30 years of practice, but it happens.
But it does. But you and I have spent the last 30 years analyzing all those issues and figuring out how to fix them. And here's sometimes the problem. When you're in practice, you're in the weeds.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can see the problem happening, but you can't always see the solution. And part of that is because you're a doctor. How much business experience outside of your practice do you really have? This is one of the things we bring to the table is a vast amount of outside of chiropractic business experience. This is where the innovation comes in. And if you don't have a coach that can innovate problem solving for you, then you don't have the right coach. It's that knowledge, it's that ability to analyze, it's that ability to track and forecast and trend your practice to really understand not only what's happening today, where the mistakes are today, but to know what those mistakes are going to compound into in the future if you don't make certain changes and what those changes are.
And that goes back to when you and I first talked years ago and we said, let's do this together.
Yeah.
We said, doctors teaching doctors. And
Doctors
we said
teaching doctors.
that for a reason, because we wanted a cadre.
But
We wanted a cadre of instructors, teachers, coaches, mentors
Mhm.
that actually knew the game inside and out. In other words, I understand chiropractic business and I understand chiropractic practice. Now, if I just understood business, I'd be like an investment capital group saying, you know what, we're going to move into the healthcare arena. I'm going to buy a bunch of chiropractic practices and we're going to maximize them.
Yep.
I don't think that would work. Do you guys think that would work? I honestly don't. I think our practices are way too unique. So what we wanted was a group of people that understood all the different varieties of practices and how they work. So that was when we first talked about this and said, doctors teaching doctors, we never wanted to vary from that. We said, we're not really worried about motivational speaking. Do we do a little bit of that? Yes. Some self-development.
Sure.
Absolutely. We within what we're doing, but it's within the framework of us teaching. So what we've heard from clients, and this is important, we've heard from potential clients that have set in on some of our virtual seminars. You do it right from your office. Bring your staff. You guys bring some snacks. Have a good morning. Listening to us. And people are going, oh my gosh, here's the response we usually get. I had no idea the amount of information that was valuable that you gave to us is overwhelming. We're going to need days just to go back through this and break it down. That's the kind of virtual seminar that we want to do with you when we have you as a client or a potential client. We want to blow your doors off every time we meet with you.
Yeah. And it's always fresh information. I want to give a great example of that. For the last several years, everybody's been whining and crying about lower reimbursement and the tightening down of the screws of medical necessity and having to prove medical necessity. And you and I have looked at that and gone, holy cow, there is a huge opportunity. Everybody's whining and crying and letting it pull their practice down. And here we are, we're innovating a new practice model that overcomes that. And so this is where we're always, and we're kind of tooting our own horn today, but this is where we're always looking forward and not getting lost in the weeds of what's failing today, but creating ways to take that failure, learn from it, and capitalize it as we move on. We were watching The Matrix last night, which everybody in the world has probably seen it. I think I was the last person on the face of the earth to have watched it for the first time last night.
Oh my, first time. Wow.
First time. I know, right?
Okay.
And Morpheus had this great line. I wrote it down. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And that's what we do. We do both, but we walk side by side with you on that path. So we create the vision, we innovate the process, and we help you integrate it into your practice so that it works.
And if that sounds too good to be true, quite frankly, contact us about maybe sitting in on one of our virtuals.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go to catsconsultants.com and click on the events tab. We've got several more virtuals this year. We've got a live face-to-face seminar coming up in November too, which is open to guests if you want to come. We're also available just to talk to you about your practice anytime. We do that for free.
And we're pretty cute both ways, whether we're virtual or whether we're in person. We're fun and we're handsome. Look at this bald head. Who would not want to come to a seminar with that? But no, we've got that. And
we give everybody glasses.
I have no problem saying, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll guarantee you that when you come and sit through this, you're going to be taking notes and you're going to be going, wow, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You will get so many major nuggets, not good ideas, but just major nuggets for your practice. Wow, Troy, this was fun. So
it was. And I don't mind tooting our own horn every once in a while, because quite frankly, this is a labor of love for us. This is not a way to scrape some money off some chiropractors they're looking to save their practices. We love you guys and we want you guys to be successful. We're chiropractors too, and we are absolutely committed to you.
And we've been fortunate to be super successful in this profession. We just want to give back. It makes me sad to hear about chiropractors who aren't doing well in the profession. And even worse, so many wanting to get out of the profession. And in my opinion, there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. And tomorrow, there's never going to be a better time than tomorrow to be a chiropractor. So don't give up. Let's just innovate some new ways to make life better for you and to be profitable and have the lifestyle that you want.
Absolutely. I think that is fantastic. You make me want to sign up today.
I think you're already signed up.
I am.
You're already good. All right, everybody. As always, we appreciate you tuning in every week to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. I want to thank Chiro Health USA. They're an amazing sponsor and amazing friends. And I want you guys to know out there that they do amazing things for this profession. So don't walk past them. You go to a convention or something, go up to their booth and thank them and learn more about what they do. There's not enough doctors using their process out there. So it's a game changer.
And they're
All right.
also innovators, and that's
They
why
are.
we love them so much.
Yep. And they are super nice people and good friends. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Podcast is growing like crazy, and it's because of you guys out there. So we will see you next time.
See ya.